joined by Travis McGhee from FuturesANIMal. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we need to. Today is especially important. I think we just got information this morning on the jobs that have been created this last quarter, and kind of an interesting part of that is it was delayed because of the government shutdown. But the numbers were kind of mixed. There's some mixed numbers there.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You're right. So typically we have the monthly jobs report, and it's always talking about the month.
Monthly, yes.
Yeah, previously.
Yep.
And it's typically the first Friday of the month.
Yeah, and this is September instead.
Yeah. So instead of the first Friday of October, obviously the government was shut down. It was delayed until this today. So we did have that announcement today. If I'm not mistaken, I just saw the number. It was just released a little while ago. I think it was like 145,000 jobs versus an estimate of 185,000, give or take. So it came in considerably lower. The futures market was indicating that the market looks like it's going to open up higher, and the reason for that leaves a lot of people scratching their head, and we get a lot of phone calls from our clients saying, why is the market going up if we're getting bad news?
Well, especially because people are a little confused about these numbers too, because it also showed unemployment went down another 1/10%, so people were kind of like, oh, that's good news. Well, not when the jobs, when there wasn't a lot of job creation. Not so exciting.
One thing to understand, most of the larger trading organizations, the trading desk, focus on the non-farm payrolls report. So that's the 148,000 number that came out versus the unemployment.
Yeah, not a big number that matters.
Yeah, exactly. The unemployment can kind of get, the actual unemployment number, I think it was 7.2%, can kind of get skewed here or there. So they really focus on the non-farm payrolls. And basically what it indicated this morning was that the Federal Reserve, the economy's not getting a lot better as we have thought. So it seems like the Federal Reserve will continue printing money, and
which makes everybody happy.
Which makes Wall Street very happy. And basically it's cheaper to borrow funds and then reinvest those funds into the market. So it drives stock prices higher. It
is sad though, because there was an economist on, I believe it was Fox just the other day, who said that he really thought that the market as a whole, and even our economy as a whole, the GDP was really going to go onto a tear the next 2 months, or 3 months, the last half of October as well as November, December. But because of the government shutdown, it now will stagnate. It would be sort of stagnant right where we're at, which appears to be the case.
Right.
Which is, I guess that's good and bad. It's certainly not. We all would love to see things get a little faster because it's been such a slow pace. But I know that the market loves stability.
It does.
So that part of it for the market's really good.
Right, it does. And it's not to say that the economy's not getting better. I truly do.
No, it's on the right track.
The economy is getting better. The government shutdown, however, has delayed that slightly for a time period. And what it's also done is delay the Federal Reserve's willingness to taper their stimulus programs.
Right.
Now, it's the inevitable. I mean,
it's going to happen some point.
Yeah. It's just a matter of when. So instead of what many anticipated might be the end of this year, we're looking probably more into early 2014 for that stimulus program to start being pulled back a little bit.
Well, it does bring up an interesting point. We're getting to the end of the year, right? This is when people start making some decisions about investing. This is really about the time we do that. We start thinking about next year. What are our plans? And as you mentioned, 2014 coming up. I don't know. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, what things do I want to be involved in coming next year? So what markets should I be looking at, and how do I figure that out for me specifically? Right.
So I like to steer folks to taking a personalized approach. Personally, I don't feel like there is a one-size-fits-all. I know we've always been accustomed to, and growing up, especially, some of the older folks, with the old equation. You take. You take your age and then subtract from it, and then or take 100, subtract your age from it, and then that's what you're going to put into the stock market, and then the rest you put into the bond market, so on and so forth.
It's kind of an arbitrary number anyway, isn't it?
Those are great equations. Yeah. They really are. They're great equations, but there's a little more to it to that. Especially if you're going to be really serious about your financial future, there's nothing wrong, again, and we've talked about this for a couple weeks now, sitting down and looking deep into where you're currently at and establishing some clear goals of where you want to be, because where you want to be is going to determine what exactly you're investing in. Someone who is 65 years old more than likely is going to have a far different investment approach as far as time horizon than someone who's 30 years old.
Right.
And they might be less willing to be as speculative and risky with some of their investments than that 30-year-old individual might be. So you need to really understand who you are, where you're at, and where you want to be.
Right.
And then that will help guide you in determining which financial market you want to invest in. So.
And I guess that's the next kind of question that I suppose I would have when I'm looking at where I want to. Now, let's assume that I figured out what market I want to be in. How do I determine how big or small I should be getting in? What things do I want to learn and know about? I think that's a big part of this, right? We've talked about this a lot. Educating yourself on the specific markets you're going to be involved in is a big part of this. So how do I figure out what ones make the most sense for me, and where is there a good starting point? Is there one market that's easier to learn in than another?
Right. So I mean, you have your two basic markets, obviously, that are very easy to grasp and to get started in: the stock market and the bond market.
Right.
And there is a lot out there for individual investors like you and myself now, far more than there was even 5 years ago, that enables us to actively get in the market and to diversify ourselves. And that really is a starting point for everyone, is understanding diversification. And again, we've always said, don't put all your eggs into one basket.
For sure.
Diversification is not buying Apple, IBM, Google, and 5 different stocks and saying, well, I'm diversified. Well, you're not really diversified, because you're all in the stock market and you're all into one specific sector. Understand the different sectors, understand the different markets, and diversify your finances across markets rather than across individual stocks. And what I mean by that is, sitting down with someone you trust, someone who understands the market. Doesn't necessarily have to be a professional by any means, but again, someone who is competent enough to help guide you in different directions, and understand what is proper diversification. Where are different areas I can place my money, and then understand the risk involved with those areas, and that will help determine how much you want to put into each individual area. I like to tell people to sit down and get out a paper and pencil. And
this is hard for people. They don't like to do this.
I know they don't.
Writing stuff is not something that people like to do.
Create an old pie chart,
right?
Old school. Just draw a pie chart. Say, this is the money I'm comfortable investing right now, and this is how I'm going to divide it up. I'm going to remain conservative with the majority of it. Let's say 80% of it. I might take 5% and be a little more speculative. That's going to kind of be my play investment money.
Yeah.
And then the rest I'm going to tie up in something even more conservative, like bonds, some sort of a fixed income instrument, and go from there.
Very interesting. I know people don't like to sit down and do this, but it is so important to have something on paper so you have a goal, because if you don't, you'll never follow it.
Right. It's a part of being disciplined. And I know it's we've talked about going to the gym, and there's an aspect of discipline involved with that, and getting up every morning and actually putting on the shoes and going to the gym and going through the motions. But what you'll find is, if you start building that disciplined process and that disciplined approach to the market now, it's going to eventually start carrying over into everything you do in the investment realm. So it's having a defined process of how to approach it, instead of just going into it haphazardly and saying, well, my buddy told me about this great idea, I'm going to invest in it, and then you end up getting burned in the end, and it's like, oh man, what did I do?
Yeah.
So
would I be safe to assume that you spend more of your time doing that part of it than anything else, sitting down and just kind of getting down to the nuts and bolts of where are we going to go from where we're at right now with people? Because I'm assuming most people like me would be, that's the one thing I don't want to do by myself.
I spend majority of the time with myself doing that.
Is that right?
Especially other people. I spend probably 75% of my time doing homework. It's homework, research. I'm constantly researching and doing due diligence on ideas that even I personally am going to invest in. And and once you make that investment, you know, what a lot of people fail to realize is once you've made the investment, so you've pulled the trigger, you're in it,
yeah,
it's just started. That investment just started. Some people think that after that it's autopilot good. I'm going to sit back. It just started. You know, now it requires constant monitoring, staying on top of it, understanding the dynamics of what's going on in the market, and that's where a firm like what we do, you know, comes in. Is that it's very hard for busy individuals.
You can't do that every day.
Myself,
yeah.
You know, a lot of us to constantly monitor the market and our investments. It's very, very hard, and that's what we bring. Is that, you know, we're kind of your eyes and ears to the market.
Right.
We're watching your portfolio. We're watching what's going on the news and the media. We're filtering through everything, telling you what's important, what you really do need to know, and how it can impact your investments, and adjusting it accordingly, or telling you how to adjust it.
I think it's kind of interesting that, you know, as you and I talked about doing we've been doing a paper simulation. One of the things that I said to you right at the outset is, I'm going to call you every day about this.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this all the time. And I have yet to be able to find the time to do that at all.
It's tough, isn't
the best I've been able to do is just keep track of the S&P a little bit.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, I get the morning, and sometimes I get the afternoon at the end of the day. I'm not ever really, you know, on it anywhere near the level I'd want to be. And if it was real money, I'd be freaking out right now. And if not for the fact that you are watching it for us.
Exactly. So that the relationship that you and I have, and that's what I wanted to show
pretty
with our
normal.
simulation account, is absolutely normal. So while you've been tied up, I've been watching the account every day.
Right.
And monitoring it and adjusting it accordingly, you know, and so on and so forth, and it's worked out well for us. I mean, we had the one trade.
So I was just going to ask you,
know,
how are we doing?
Well, we're doing fine. So we had the one speculative trade that we made, again, with a small portion of our portfolio that we made some money. I think we made, you know, 4%.
Right.
It was like $2,000 we made on that trade. We took that trade and put it into another very short-term trade. That trade didn't go in our favor, so we did end up losing money. We lost about $1,000 on that trade.
Okay.
But again, it was being disciplined, and when I saw that there was a point of no return and it wasn't going our way, I just got out.
Yeah.
You know, just like in the first trade, when we reached a certain point and we had made, you know, so much money in such amount of time, we got out of that trade. So that all worked out. And then we have, again, the majority of our portfolio allocated to one investment that's higher probability, a little more conservative than the other two we were doing. That investment is due to expire next week. And so far, it's looking very good for us. So, and we're looking to return about 6% on that investment.
That's cool.
So, yeah, we're doing great.
We're doing good, and I'm excited to talk to you about that next week and see what our next plan is.
In the next
move.
place. So then what we'll do is you and I will sit down together and we'll start mapping out November.
So this is very normal.
Very normal.
Well, this is what is just to give you the idea of what you can expect if we were in your office. This is what we would be doing.
This is what we would be doing. Exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Travis McGhee, if someone wants to get a hold of you and sit down in your office and talk about some strategies, what do they do?
Right. So again, it's FuturesANIMal.com. There's a phone number right on the website. You can give me a call, or whoever answers the phone is probably one of my brokers. You can speak with them. We'd love to have you come in, or we can visit you, or talk to you over the phone, whatever the case may be. But again, just kind of map everything out and go from there.
All right, exercising some discipline with FuturesANIMal, Travis McGhee. All right, we will be back here in just a moment with more on the Mountain Morning Show.